Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin. Today I am bringing you guys a video on some of the community's most asked questions that I see regularly and questions that have been submitted by my community over on Discord. So I put a message in my Discord channel, which if you would like to join in with the Discord community, the link will be in the description and in the comments of this video so you can get involved with future videos like this. And I put a message in asking what people's biggest questions were for New World, or questions they thought that other people may have as they're going along. So what I'm going to do is go through a few of those questions. We got an absolute ton, so thank you to everybody that did submit a question in my Discord server. I appreciate all of you. We're going to get through as many as we can here. Some of them will just be quick fire answers because they're fairly self-explanatory, or, you know, kind of there's too much to explain, right? So we're just going to go over those quickly. Other ones I'm going to go into a bit more depth, particularly on the ones that I think a wide range of people will be asking. And so I'm just going to go over some of these today and hopefully provide you guys with a lot of answers as to some of the most asked questions that I've seen and that my community's seen throughout the entire community of New World. So first one here is by Limpin, and it says the best or worst starter area. So this is kind of one of those things where it's personal preference, but personally I think that the two best starting areas are going to be Windswood and Everfall, simply because they're right in the middle of the map. And basically a lot of people are going to go up that way, especially through Windswood in the early game for the main story quest, and obviously Everfall after that as well. So these areas are going to be really popular by, not even by choice, just by the way that the story takes you. And then people will generally gravitate towards the area anyway because they've already been there, they know the area quite well, they've got some stuff in storage there, right? So they're going to keep coming back to those areas, and a lot of people use them as a base camp throughout the rest of the game. So I think if you're starting either of those areas, it's pretty good. Also, I really like Monarch's Bluff. It's got a lot of very good resource runs in there, so I really like that territory too. First Light, I don't mind. It's got some nice stuff in, but it's just way too far down the bottom out of the way. So for me personally, I prefer those other three, and particularly Windswood Neverfall. But it's entirely up to you what you think. So you guys let me know in the comments which one is your favourite starting zone. Oscar then asks, how long would a solo dungeon take? The short answer is a very long time. I don't know if anybody's done this yet. I would assume if you got to level 60 and you had a key, you could probably solo the first Amrine Temple expedition. But I'm not 100% sure if anybody's tried this or wants to try this. Probably very easily as a paladin class, so the healer slash tank. But it will probably take a very, very long time with the lack of damage there. So if someone wants to try it, then be my guest, but I'm not sure that that's something I'm going to want to be taking on myself. And then Mala has asked here, what am I supposed to pair with the life staff? So annoying that I feel pigeonholed to go Ice Gauntlet when everybody else has so many other combinations. This is a really good point, because the life staff is simply focus, then it kind of does narrow down your options. Now this is a very interesting point, because a lot of healers have got different kind of answers towards this. Some people are really hoping that the Void Gauntlet comes out and at least either primarily or secondary scale is off focus, so that they've got something else to work with there. Like you mentioned in the comment, a lot of people do use the Ice Gauntlet, and that's mainly for the utility of this, so the Entomb, where they can regen mana and become invulnerable for a little bit of time. I have also seen people use the Warhammer for the CC, so that would be one of my recommendations as well. And then you could also use something like the Great Axe or even the Hatchet with a gem on there to convert the damage from a certain percentage of your focus points. If you've gone full focus, this will mean that the Great Axe will do base damage off its weapon stats and then a bit of converted damage as well from your focus points, which will be really nice and can make it do a decent amount of damage if you are wanting something that you can hit back with rather than use for utility. So it kind of works for any of the other weapons, but I think primarily Ice Gauntlet's really good, Warhammer's really good, and Sword and Shield can be good if you want that tankiness as well when you are kind of just trying to run away or trying to protect yourself a little bit. And following on a similar thread here, Daspin has asked, what is the best weapon combo with the bow slash musket? Now for me, I think that the bow is really, really good with the spear. I've seen a lot of PvP content provided by a lot of you guys here as creators on YouTube with this setup, and it works really, really well. I've also tried it out myself a little bit, and I did enjoy it a lot, particularly using the bow in one of the alphas way before we got all of the new stuff we've got now, and it was a real good time using that. So the bow's definitely really good paired with the spear. Also works well with certain other things like the Great Axe, but then it does scale off of different attributes. It depends how spread thin you want your attributes to be. The reason the spear works so well is because it also scales off dexterity, so you can go full dex and have a good bow and spear build there. Same with the Hatchet, because that's a secondary stat on dexterity as well, so you could go ahead and run hatchet if you would like to with it, and that does work really well, but the spear CC is what does it really well up close, so it's kind of up to you. In terms of the musket, it's an intelligence based weapon as well, so you can run it with things like the fire staff if you want a bit of mobility, but again, that is 2 range weapons, so it's entirely up to you. If you want some CC, with the warhammer is always a good option, but generally you're going to be running things like the spear or the fire staff with that one there. Now, kind of the main thing to pair with the musket is probably going to be the rapier, to be honest. It scales off the same attributes as the musket, and this means that you can scale those together, and it does a very high amount of quick burst damage. If you've got some good skill with it as well, you're able to riposte enemy attacks, dodge out of the way, and do a lot of other cool stuff, which works really, really well. So that's always a very nice option to pair with it, as it works very good synergy wise, and it also does a ton of damage. So it's going to mean you're going to be lethal up close and at far ranges. So Rave has then asked, what is the best early game perk for tools and the best early game perk or perks for weapons and armor? So for tools, it's up to you. If you're struggling for Azoth, the Azoth Gatherer one is really, really good, but generally just the extra yield or the extra XP per gathered item is really, really useful early on. That does help a lot. When you're looking at bags, that's going to be the main thing you're going to want it on, and it's going to be extra pockets, which simply just gives you even more space for having that bag equipped. So that's in terms of the armor one there. Weapons, it's entirely up to you kind of what you want. I really like the quick refresh on the armor, and then on the weapons, I like something like maybe a little bit of lifesteal, or the refreshing ability one, where once you use an ability or hit an enemy, you actually get a little bit of refresh cooldown on your cooldowns overall, which is always a nice one to have. But you can get things that are good against certain mobs, which can be nice, particularly if you're in a certain section of the game like Amrine Temple. If you get one that's good against ancients, you're going to do really, really well. So there is certain things that you can get out at certain different times. Early on, I would say probably the ancient damage one, the extra pockets perk, the refresh abilities one, and obviously the XP or the extra yield abilities on the tools there. Now, Syke says how to get your stash from one town to another without owning it. Any gems that increase weight, for example. So like I mentioned on the last question there, you have got the ability to get extra pockets, which is a perk on the bags, and obviously increasing those bags once you can get to the level where you can buy the Rune of Holding, the Minor Rule of Holding, the first bag that you can create from your faction vendor. You can create a bag that will increase your weight almost double to what you had normally, so it's a really, really good way to do it there. In terms of transferring storage, if your faction owns it, you can transfer things for a certain amount of cost of gold or Azoth. Other than that, if it's not owned by your faction, or if it is, but you've got kind of not got enough resources to pay for that, it is unfortunately just running across with it at the moment, or indeed getting it in your inventory and fast traveling across if you've got the Azoth to pay for that. So it's entirely up to you how you do it, but there is several ways, and if your faction owns it, that's going to be the easiest way, as you can simply transfer things. So here Fanta has asked, what can someone expect from the first few hours in-game after release? Which areas to avoid when it is the first day of release that are going to be crowded, etc. What to do or what not to do, and approximately after X amount of hours should the company aim for a city? Like, how long should it take for us to get the 100k? So breaking this down into a little bit here, because this is kind of a few questions in one. First few hours in the game, you're going to be getting to grips with the system, picking up your first couple of weapons that you want to level up, learning the area that you've spawned in, or indeed running to one that you want to be in, and kind of going through the early doors quests to get geared up a little bit to be able to fight some of your first mobs and big areas that are like these open world monuments that are going to have quite a few mobs in the area at once. This is going to be really good. You're also going to look at gathering skills and looking how to get your mining level up so that you can get more iron and get those tracking abilities for iron. Same with rabbits and turkeys, as they're going to be really big for the town board quests. So that is what I would kind of aim to do, is level up those skills early on so that you can do it. But generally, you want to do a bit of everything, to be honest, and that's going to be the most fun way to do it and the most beneficial way, because you're going to level everything up at once and you're going to have fun doing it. So that's kind of the best thing to do. Now, when it comes to areas to avoid, honestly, everywhere is going to be busy, I would imagine, at launch. So just getting through the main story quest in the starting areas really, really quickly is going to be your best bet if you're wanting to avoid kind of pile-ups of people. Personally, I'm going to try and get to around level 9 or 10 pretty quickly in the first 2-3 hours of playing, just by powering through the main story, just so that I can be away from the main group of people who are taking it steady. And that's because by this point, I'll have played the main story first part probably 6 or 7 times through, all in all, if I don't rerun the character in open beta a few times to fine-tune my start. So for me, that's what I'm going to be doing, but it's essentially up to you, whatever you want to do. If you're finding something's too crowded, go ahead and do some crafting, some gathering gathering for a little while, or go ahead and do an expedition if you have those unlocked. It's entirely up to you, kind of weigh it up and see how your particular server goes. Now, what to do or what not to do, basically you're just going to want to do everything like I said, and approximately when should we have the money for it to take to us to get a city. So again, it depends how many members you've got. If you're maxing out, so particularly my company as well, so Fanta and all of the people in the video here are all from my company, or the majority of them. We've got around 95 members now, so we're pretty much full on capacity in terms of recruiting new people. So if each of us can just get over 1,000 gold each, 1,050-ish should be enough for us to get that within the first 6 hours, I would say. But then you've got to weigh up whether you want to defend that from other people attacking, whether it's worth buying it straight off the bat and getting the tax money, or whatever you want to do there. But I reckon you can do this between 6 and 12 hours with a large company very easily. For a smaller company, maybe 30, 40, 50 people, you can probably do this within the first 24 hours to 36 hours, depending how much you guys actually play. And obviously, if you're doing the main story quest, that's going to give you the most gold along with the side story quest, so you can probably power through that quite quickly. Now, Abdul here has asked the thoughts on the best skill for money versus the worst from what we've seen in beta so far. So again, I think this progresses as the game goes on. So early doors, crafting those bags, crafting tools of a higher tier than anybody else is going to be really, really important. That's going to make you a lot of money. Long term, you're going to be looking at things like consumables. So things like stat boosting foods, potions are going to be really good. Potions slightly less so, because you are going to be able to get a lot of those from the elite zone drops from the mobs. But stat boosting foods are going to be really, really good throughout the game. And also the ability to have stone cutting to be able to get those tuning orbs. Now, they aren't tradable at the moment, so it's not necessarily profitable in terms of lucrative in money, but it is going to be profitable to your company and to yourself if you're a PvE player, so you can get on those expeditions. So going through a few things there, it's generally going to be things that can be used up, and also weapon and armor crafting to get those really high level 580 plus gear scores. When we get to further into the late game and end game stages, those are going to be really valuable skills to have as well. Now, Malat also asks here, can you level up strictly from gathering / crafting? I know of the boars, but I heard they were getting nerfed XP wise. So yes, but also no, because you have to kill mobs in the intro, so you couldn't strictly do a passive playthrough. But in terms of once you've gone past the first starting areas and done that, you could level up strictly off gathering and crafting, although it would take an awful long time, because the main story and side story are where the big chunks of XP come from, and to do those you have to go out and kill mobs and do that kind of thing. So you are going to struggle in terms of doing it. But yes, technically, if you had the time and the patience, you could do that. You'd need to get your skills very high leveled up. In terms of the town board getting nerfed, we've seen a nerf to the timer. So it was a 5-minute timer in the start of the closed beta, and it was then increased to a 30-minute refresh timer towards the end there. But we haven't seen any XP nerfs as of yet. However, we'll see that going into the open beta. I'll keep you all updated if we do or not, but right now it's just the timer on how long the quests take to refresh. So it's still really good XP in terms of what you actually get for it. You just can't do them quite as frequently. Now, Lazy has asked here, is there a possibility that we're going to see something like PvP arenas with events and cool prizes? Honestly, I do not know, mate, but I really, really hope so. I think this would be something very, very cool. Bring a bit of community competition, especially if you're able to fight against other people in your company, because I think that'd be a cool kind of friendly, competitive manner that you could bring out in the game. So, hopefully. Oscar's asked here, can you change faction after choosing one? Yes, after 120 days, you can choose a different faction, but I don't think, as far as I'm aware, you're allowed to choose the faction that is currently in the lead with the most amount of territories owned and that kind of thing. That may change, or that might be slightly incorrect information, so don't hold me to it. But after 120 days, you can change faction, yes. Grenthia asks, will New World have pay-to-win implements? Hopefully not. They've said no. It's just going to be only cosmetic, and a lot of videos talking about it have said that they're probably going to bring out boost type things, so maybe a little bit of an efficiency in terms of gathering or something like that, maybe in the future. But right now, all we've had confirmed is cosmetic items, so hopefully not, but we'll have to see as we, go on with the lifespan of the game. Maybe there'll be certain things they bring out that are slightly more pay to win, but as of right now, officially confirmed, it's stated to be no pay to win elements, only cosmetics, so fingers crossed that it stays like that. Abdullah, trophies in houses, are the buffs local to the area where your house, or to all areas? The short answer to this one is global buffs are applied from these housing trophies, so it's across the entire map. Again, whether this will change going into open beta and release, we're not sure yet, but as of right now, it is global, which is pretty nice because it means getting those trophies is really, really worth it, particularly stacking them up in different houses, so certainly something worth doing. Gath here has asked, what are elite monsters? What do you get from killing them, and the best spots per level? So elite monsters are essentially just a buffed version of regular mobs. They've got a lot more health, do a lot more damage, so watch out for them. And they're in these specified zones. You can find them throughout the open world, particularly named mobs are classed as elite monsters, right? But there is the expedition or above top expedition type zones, or the elite zones, which you'll see on the map. Each of these is represented by a red flaming skull, so you can see them, and they are relative to the area they're in. So for example, there's one in Weaver's Fen, there's one in Brightwood, and each of these areas will tell you the recommended level, and they're always recommended for 5 players, so to go in a full party in order to do these. So you'll see the recommended level on them, and it's recommended to just go for the one that you can actually achieve as a team. So if you're like level 38, but as a 5-man, you can take on the 45 zones. It's going to be really, really good. But one thing to bear in mind is if you're wanting to get the tier 4 drops, so the level 40 plus drops, they won't actually be dropped from the mobs until you get to level 40. So doing it at level 38 is great for XP, but bear in mind until you get to the threshold for that tier of item to drop, you won't start seeing it. You also get a lot of crafting materials, a lot of refining materials, and a lot of potions from killing these, so it's really, really good. Not to mention, it's probably the best weapon XP that I've found in the game completely, so it's definitely something that is worth doing. Tilt here has asked for the best gems for PvE and PvP. Basically, it's going to be if you're using a certain stat and you're using a weapon that doesn't scale from that stat, or it isn't its primary scaling stat, then you can throw in a gem that's going to convert a certain amount of that damage, which is really going to help out because it's going to mean that weapon damage is going to be up. As well as this, really good gems, things like tanking, you're going to need the taunt gems on there, and things for defensive wise, it's basically up to you whatever you're lacking, so elemental or physical resistance, depending on your armor class, is going to be really, really useful. So kind of cater it towards yourself. There's no one truly best gem, but of course, if you are tanking, you definitely do need those taunt gems. And finally here, Marky has asked best attributes to level efficiency up for each playstyle: healer, DPS, tank. So again, really, this kind of depends on the role you want to play. If you're playing pure tank, obviously Constitution is the best, pure healer, pure focus is the best, and DPS, you're going to be either strength or dexterity or intelligence, depending what your weapon scales from. So it kind of, it's up to you what you want to mix and match, but you want to make sure that your primary stat is something that your armor and your weapon gives you a bonus to, and every 50 points you do get access to those attribution thresholds, so you want to make sure that you get as close to those as possible where you can, particularly for the ones that give you a really good bonus. So hopefully you guys have found this video useful and informative. If you do have any questions of your own, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll try and respond to as many of you guys as I can, and if anybody else knows the answer to any comments you see in the questions, be sure to answer them and help each other out too. If you'd like to see a part 2 or another video similar to this where I answer a lot more community questions, then that is something I could do. So let me know that by leaving a comment down below and dropping a like on today's video if you have enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe to this channel with notification bell on so you don't miss an upload. We're bringing you guys new world content every single day, so don't miss out on that. Other than that, if you would like to join the Discord, the link will be in the description and in the comments as always, so head over there. We'd love to have you in the community. And if you would like to become a channel member and support me here on YouTube, the join button is down below. You can have a look at the options available there. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching. Take care and peace.